April 5, 2024, News Report 1. On April 5, 2024, U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet L. Yellen continued her visit in Guangdong, China. She met with Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng, Governor of Guangdong Province Wang Weizhong, and delivered a speech at the American Chamber of Commerce. During her three engagements, Yellen elaborated on the U.S. view of China's overcapacity. She stated that overcapacity refers to production capacity far exceeding demand, and can be temporary or structural. Temporary overcapacity does not cause major problems, while structural overcapacity is a serious economic issue. Yellen pointed out that China's overcapacity is structural, mainly caused by government-supported industrial policies and extensive bank loans. A study released by Rongding Group in March showed that China's overcapacity cannot be absorbed domestically and can only be exported. For example, China's silicon wafer capacity utilization rate dropped from 78% in 2019 to 57% in 2022, while China's lithium battery production reached 1.9 times the domestic installation. Yellen stated that China's overcapacity has raised high concerns in the U.S. because the U.S. is worried that China's large-scale exports of cheap industrial products will disrupt global economic stability. Yellen's purpose of this visit is to discuss overcapacity issues with China. She expressed understanding that the Chinese government supports manufacturing for domestic development goals, but China's factory capacity has far exceeded domestic demand and the global market's capacity, putting pressure on other economies and exacerbating potential trade tensions. Yellen also stated that China's large economy cannot achieve rapid growth through exports alone, and would benefit from reducing overcapacity. Additionally, on April 4, Chinese Vice Minister of Commerce Wang Shouwen visited the United States and co-chaired the first deputy ministerial meeting of the China-U.S. Trade and Economic Working Group with Marissa Lego, Deputy Minister of Commerce of the United States. Lego pointed out that China's overcapacity has already had an impact on U.S. companies and workers, expressing strong concern about this. After the meeting, the EU and the US issued a joint statement condemning third countries' pursuit of non-market policies and practices, and emphasizing the need to deepen cooperation in export controls and investment reviews to address the threats to the economic security of the EU and the US posed by non-market measures. News Report 2. It has been over 60 hours since the 7.2 magnitude strong earthquake in Hualien, Taiwan. Various sectors in Taiwan continue to search for missing persons in the disaster area, while the international community has praised Taiwan's disaster prevention and post-disaster response capabilities. Japanese media such as TV Tokyo and Exclusive News interviewed a primary school activity center in Hualien City as a shelter. The report stated that the Taiwan Worship Foundation set up 46 independent shelter rooms in the activity center, with a total capacity of 81 people. The shelter center provides shower rooms, toilets, and 3 meals of hot bento. Each room has an area of 6 square meters, a 1.65-meter high partition, and can accommodate up to 3 beds. It has no roof, balancing privacy and ventilation. Japanese media said that in Japan, refugees have to sleep on the floor in shelters, while Taiwan's relief measures are more advanced than Japan's. Asahi TV interviewed Professor Hataka Hitian of Tokyo Institute of Technology, who said that Taiwan's construction technology is more advanced than Japan's in some aspects. However, Hitian pointed out that the collapsed buildings in the Hualien earthquake have a common problem, that is, 5- or 6-story buildings are supported by pillars on the first floor. Once the pillars on the first floor are damaged, the entire building will collapse. In contrast, Taipei 101 Tower in Taiwan stands firm in earthquakes, mainly due to its advanced design and facilities, such as a 660-ton damper, which can effectively reduce the shaking caused by earthquakes. As of 8 p.m. on April 5, the Hualien earthquake has caused 10 deaths, 1133 injuries, and 10 missing persons. Search and rescue personnel found the bodies of 2 dead persons trapped under huge rocks at the Shikatang Trail in Taroko National Park. The missing Canadian tourists have been contacted, while 4 other missing persons and 2 Australian tourists are still being searched for. According to the Central Weather Bureau, there have been more than 400 aftershocks since the earthquake, including a 5.0 magnitude aftershock at noon on April 5, which required search and rescue personnel to stop their operations. Overall, Taiwan's rescue operations have been recognized by the international community, contrasting significantly with China's rescue operations. News Report 3. Former Taiwan President Ma Ying-jeou visited Maguan Temple in Bigong Village, Xianyang City, Shaanxi Province on April 5 to commemorate his Han Dynasty ancestor Ma Yuan. Ma Yuan was a famous general from the end of the Western Han Dynasty to the beginning of the Eastern Han Dynasty, and was eventually conferred the title of Zhongqing Marquis. Ma Yuan's famous saying is, "A man should die on the edge of the border, with his horse's hide returning to his clan." Ma Ying-jeou previously stated that his ancestral home is Xiangtan, Hunan Province. This time, he said that his ancestors moved from Shaanxi to Xiangtan, Hunan. It is said that his ancestors first settled in Fenglin Fufeng County, Shaanxi, and went to the Ma's village in Miaoli, Taiwan to worship their ancestors every year on the 2nd day of the Lunar New Year. This time, he personally came to Fulin's Ma Garden to find his roots. Ma Ying-jeou praised the articles in Maguan for being included in ancient civil paper, and expressed his feelings to Ma Yuan and others. He himself is from the Navy and feels close to Ma Yuan, who was conferred the title of Fubo General. Ma Ying-jeou visited the Museum of Famen Temple in the afternoon of April 5 and prayed in front of the Buddha Shakyamuni. News Report 4. Liberty Times reported that the United States plans to invite Taiwan's armored forces to participate in this year's joint exercises in the second half of the year, and has delayed the delivery time of the newly manufactured M1A2 tanks from the original second quarter to the fourth quarter. This batch of tanks includes the M1A2T Abrams tanks specially produced for Taiwan by the United States. They are equipped with a low-profile remote weapon system on the roof and cancel the active defense system. Taiwan purchased 108 M1A2T tanks from the United States in 2023, with a production rate of 4 per month. The first batch of 38 was originally scheduled to be delivered in the second quarter of this year. The other 2 batches are planned to be delivered in 2025 and 2026 respectively. Due to participation in the exercise, the first batch of tanks needs to wait for the factory to produce a certain quantity before they can be shipped back to Taiwan. The Taiwan Army Command said that this exercise is a project of the annual plan for military exchanges. As for the progress of the delivery of M1A2T tanks, the Army Command said that it is proceeding according to plan. The United States has basically sold all the most advanced weapons from aircraft to artillery to tanks to Taiwan, but the delivery speed is relatively slow. This may be because the United States is observing whether the people of Taiwan have a firm will and resistance. If not, once the PLA starts, these weapons may quickly fall into the hands of the other party. News Report 5. Central News Agency reported that the UK Home Office has raised the minimum salary requirement for work visa applications from an annual salary of £26,500 to £38,700. Applicants for work visas to the UK now need to earn a salary of £38,700 to meet the requirements. The Home Office has also published a list of designated industries, specifying that the wage levels in these industries should not be too low, aiming to prevent employers from exploiting cheap foreign labor and to protect the rights of local workers, ultimately reducing immigration numbers. The UK government also plans to gradually increase the minimum salary requirement for family visa applications, expected to rise to £38,738 by spring 2025. Additionally, the UK government will review the rule allowing foreign students to stay for 2 to 3 years after graduating. The UK is currently starting to restrict immigration, aiming to reduce the number of people entering to 300,000 this year. Countries like Canada and Australia are also tightening their immigration policies. News Report 6. Radio Free Asia reported that the Canadian Immigration Department's lifeboat plan for Hong Kongers has now accumulated 8,000 pending applications for permanent residency. The Hong Kong Watch organization pointed out that after Canada launched the lifeboat plan in 2021, 15,000 Hong Kongers applied for permanent residency, but the Canadian Immigration Department has only processed 7,000 applications so far, leaving 8,000 unprocessed. The number of Hong Kongers applying for permanent residency in Canada surged in May 2023, but the Canadian Immigration Department is short of manpower, leading to a backlog of cases. The guidelines of the Canadian Immigration Department stipulate that permanent resident applications should be processed within 6.5 months, but current Hong Kong applicants have been waiting for over a year. Similar situations are also occurring in the United States. Due to Canada's desire to reduce immigration numbers, there seems to be a delay in processing applications currently. News Report 7. Bloomberg News reported that local Chinese governments have recently launched a so-called special rectification of the real estate market order to prevent a downturn in the property market. The paper.cn cited two examples, one where a self-media report claimed that house prices in Shenzhen had fallen by 40%, and another where a three-bedroom apartment in Beijing's Fengtai Ziluoyan neighborhood had dropped by 3 million yuan. The paper.cn's investigation found that real estate agents near these two properties confirmed these prices, but it does not mean that the prices of the entire neighborhood have fallen. The report pointed out that the Chinese government prohibits self-media from publishing negative comments on the property market, possibly because the property market is facing collapse, and the government wants to control the flow of information. News Report 8. Agence France-Presse reported that according to a source from the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, Ukrainian security forces and military bombed the airport in Morozovsk, Russia on April 5, destroying 6 Russian warplanes, with another 8 warplanes severely damaged. Morozovsk Airport is the Air Force base of the Russian command headquarters invading Ukraine, where bombers are stationed, mainly used for bombing Ukraine. The Russian side has not commented on this attack, only stating that 53 drones were shot down that night. In recent months, the Ukrainian military has increased attacks on targets inside Russia, mainly targeting energy and military bases. Ukrainian drones can now penetrate up to 1,300 kilometers into Russian territory for attacks, posing a serious threat to Russia. This report is about the Ukrainian military's attacks on targets inside Russia, showing that the Ukrainian side is taking more proactive actions in the conflict. The report mentions attacks on targets inside Russia, especially attacks on important infrastructure such as refineries, which could exacerbate tensions between Ukraine and Russia. News Report 9. Agence France-Presse reported that after a phone call between Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and U.S. President Biden, Netanyahu's office issued a statement on April 5 saying that the northern border crossing of Gaza will be temporarily opened to allow aid to pass through, in order to prevent a humanitarian crisis from worsening. It is reported that on April 1, 7 international aid workers from the charity organization World Central Kitchen were killed in an Israeli airstrike in Gaza. Biden and Netanyahu spoke for 30 minutes on April 4, with Biden being firm in the call, stating that Israel's attack on aid workers' vehicles was unacceptable and demanding an immediate ceasefire from Israel. He also stated that future U.S. support for Israel will depend on Israel's measures to protect civilians. The Israeli military announced on April 5 that all combat units will temporarily halt, leave and return to their positions. Israeli Defense Minister Gantz stated that due to threats from various Middle Eastern countries, it is necessary to strengthen defenses. In addition, on the evening of April 4, Israel held a cabinet meeting, where Netanyahu stated that Israel knows how to protect itself and will act according to a simple principle, that any act of harm or planned harm to Israel will be responded to. While Israel did not directly refute Biden, its actions indicate that it will continue to act according to its own will. News Report 10. According to the Chinese self-media outlet Xinhui Yumo, some communities in Chongqing have recently started installing QR codes on residents' door plates. Photos show that a QR code door plate has been installed above the doors of residents by a company designated by the police station. The Tiangongdian Community Police Station in Yubei District, Chongqing, issued a notice to residents, requiring them to scan the QR code installed above the main gate and fill in relevant information to facilitate population registration and application for residence permits. However, some netizens have discovered that these QR-coded door plates may be linked to social credit ratings. By scanning the QR code, anyone can immediately view the owner's credit rating, which is important private information. Some residents said that even if they do not install the QR code, others may install it, so they plan to remove the QR code as soon as possible. The report stated that as long as someone in the community installs these door plates, other residents may follow suit, reflecting part of the digital authoritarian tools being promoted by the Chinese Communist Party. News Report 11. On the morning of April 5, a large fire broke out at Shengzuden Market at the intersection of Zhui Road in Xiangtan City, Hunan Province. Videos show that the fire was very fierce, engulfing all the storefronts along the street, resulting in a tragic scene. Firefighters quickly arrived at the scene and started firefighting operations, pulling up water lines to extinguish the fire. According to a preliminary investigation by the Hunan Provincial Fire Brigade, the fire may have been caused by a wooden stove in the market's steel structure and steel concrete structure. The main burning materials were motorcycle parts and textiles such as curtains. The fire has been brought under control, and there were no casualties at the scene. The cause of the fire is still under investigation. This market mainly sells motorcycles, motorcycle parts, general merchandise, curtain fabrics, clothing, and food. The steel structure and steel concrete structure where the fire started are the main fire points, and the burning materials are mainly textiles, making this the most likely cause of the fire. News Report 12. April 4th was the first day of the Qingming Festival in China. According to Xinhua News Agency, the Ministry of Transport of China stated that the national cross-regional population flow reached 262 million people on that day, an increase of 70% compared to the previous year. The flow on the roads reached 241 million people, an increase of 68%, with self-driving accounting for a large proportion, reaching 220 million people. Long-distance passenger transport reached 35 million people, an increase of 48%. Waterway passenger transport reached 700,000 people, an increase of 53%. According to the paper, the China Railway Group stated that on April 4, the National Railway sent 18.53 million passengers, setting a record for the highest daily passenger volume so far this year. On April 5, the second day of the Qingming Festival, the National Railway is expected to send 12.65 million passengers, with plans to add 513 additional trains. April 6 is the last day of the Qingming holiday, and a peak in return travel is expected. News Report 13. Xinhua News Agency reported that the giant panda Fubao returned to the Wulong Giant Panda Garden in Chengdu, Sichuan Province, from South Korea on April 3. Currently, Fubao is living in a quarantined isolation area and is in good condition. Fubao is a listed giant panda, born on July 20, 2020, the first cub born to the giant pandas Ai Bao and Lu Bao in South Korea, and the first giant panda born in South Korea. From birth, Fubao has been loved by the Korean people, doubling the number of visitors to the zoo, and videos of Fubao online have been viewed 500 million times. According to regulations, China requires other countries to sign agreements, and even giant pandas born in other countries must return to China when they turn 4 years old. China aims to control the fate of all giant pandas. Before Fubao returned to China, the Korean keepers came to Chengdu with him. Keeper Jiang Ziyuan said in an interview that Fu Bao was a bit nervous, but this was normal. Since 2023, the United States, Japan, and the United Kingdom have successively announced the return of rented giant pandas to China, marking the end of China's panda diplomacy. According to British media, the rent paid to China for supporting a giant panda, plus living expenses in the UK, cost more than £760,000 per year for a giant panda.